Okay. So we've probably all seen those people that are doing work that just seems totally off the wall, but really unique and really interesting. And now with Instagram, we're seeing it all the time, and we probably don't even pay attention to it as much anymore. But there was this one guy that came across my Instagram feed this weekend called Bierton, and his job is to be a professional pumpkin carver.
Hey, happy October 1st, everyone. My name is Adam. I'm a professional pumpkin carver for the last 20 years. And yes, carving pumpkins is my job. Crazy, right?
Now, like, this guy's on another level. He really got me wondering if it can make sense for someone to transition out of a corporate environment and transition into a super niche creative business. So I figured we'd take a look at some examples of some fun female-owned businesses today and walk through it ourselves. Hi, I'm Courtney, and I created Desk to Dream to document my process of transitioning out of a traditional corporate environment and to share what I've learned along the way with the hope that maybe it helps someone else who's interested in doing the same. Okay, so let's check out the first business that I thought would be a good example, and that is Jess Gladwish. She has a business called Fat Pom Poms, and you can see that like her entire feed is just beautiful, fun, creative, interesting pom-poms, more pom-poms than I could have ever imagined in my life. And what really kind of captures me about her is that she's actually elevated in such a way that it's pretty fancy. And then also she's capturing people's desires to be able to do this for themselves. A lot of people want to do crafty things, but they don't necessarily want to buy all of the things to become crafters. And so I think one of the things that she's done really well here is she created a kit, and you can create, let's see if it comes up. It looks like it's a little bit slow. But yeah, so she created it's called the Pom Pom Fruit Salad, and it's a garland of different fruit-shaped pom-poms. And I think that this is a great example of someone who is a very niche business, but who's done a really great job. Another thing that we can see from her profile is that she does have a link to her store here. And so, you know, she's selling the kits here and this is her website. So it does send you directly to her website. She's selling these from anywhere from like $51, $57, $24. I think I saw one when I was originally looking that was like $28. Yeah, so the Bright Starter Pom Pom Kit is $28. So very reasonably priced, but also like so many different ways that she's doing the same thing in different ways. She's also got the supplies that you might need. So I think this is a super interesting business that I am genuinely curious at what it would take to really kind of make this make sense for somebody who is leaving the corporate world. Our next example is Sunroom Ceramics. You can find her on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, as well as her online store. She's based out of Tacoma, Washington. And what's pretty unique about her is that she has a ceramics business, which ceramics are pretty popular and a lot of people do them. But what she's managed to do is she focuses on vintage slip cast molds. So think of like the ceramic Christmas tree that you would get, or your grandmother probably had sitting on a shelf somewhere. And she bought up the molds for those, and now she creates ceramics with those molds that would normally be kind of kitschy and dated, but she's elevated them and brought them current. So now she's got like these super cute cats and these ghosts, and then she adds these decals on them, and she's put her own spin on this entirely. And here's one of those Christmas trees. Let's see if it'll come up. So like, this is not what you see on your grandmother's shelf, and so many people have these, but like, who wouldn't want this? This is amazing. But it's another way of taking something people have been doing for hundreds of years and really putting your own spin on it and then building your business around that. All right, so here we have another example of something pretty niche and specific, but also a smaller business that is really making a go of it. So her account is called Pawtique, and she makes custom collars and dog leads, and she ships them out of Ireland. So you can see like right now she's making like pet tags. She makes custom leads. These look like they might be Halloween inspired. It's not going to open, but that's okay. But for instance, you can see, here's a ball holder, which I would have never thought that I needed a ball holder, but now I think I might. And what I like about her page is she has done a really good job of showing everything that she does, but she also offers people the list of suppliers that they can get their own supplies with, which is a digital product for her. Like, she'll show you the equipment and stuff. Let's see if she actually shows it here. Yeah, so she offers up her equipment list and where you can buy the stuff on her website. And She has 37.6K subscribers, but I think if we go to her website, we can see how this really is working out for her. So she allows you to design your own, essentially. You go in and you select a bunch of different things, or you can just get her, the ones that she's already made. And so they're 32 pounds. I think that's probably close to $40 USD. I have no idea what the exchange rate is these days. I think that this is another really unique business in that she's simplified her offerings so that she can customize. And that in and of itself is serving a specific kind of crowd that wants a designer or custom lead. And she's selling them at price points that are very reasonable and competitive with what you would buy in like a regular retail. So I think this is another example of somebody who's done something creative but practical, but in a very specific niche, but in a different way, because these are very customer-driven dog leads. She also has a YouTube channel, and then she also has an Amazon storefront. If you saw my last video, then you probably know that I talk a lot about additional revenue streams, and it looks like that's something that she is building into her business as well by creating an Amazon affiliate account and then also selling her equipment list as a digital product. So she's got quite a few different things going on here, which allows her to probably be pretty successful with 37.6 followers. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed some of those businesses and it gave you some inspiration. And if you're interested in any of their direct links, you can find them in the description below. But I want to get back to the original question, which is related to how would the math work on this for someone to transition out of a corporate job and into their own business? So in the corporate world, we mostly focus on like our salaries and total compensation package. But if we're going to transition into being a business owner, we have to think about things a little bit differently, because $100,000 salary is not the same thing as a $100,000 profit. So I've asked ChatGPT to help me do some math on how much money you would have to make in profit to actually bring in $100,000 in profit take home. So if you want to make $100,000 in profit in the business to take home, first you have to figure out what your pre-tax profit would be, because you have to factor in federal taxes, self-employment taxes, and also state taxes. Now, these are going to vary widely across the board because we all live in different places. And if you live in a different country, this probably doesn't even make sense. But the reality is that for most people in the United States, if you're going to start a creative business that's smaller like this and it's direct to customer, you're generally going to pay around 25% tax. So our pre-tax profit on $100,000 is divided by 75% or 0.75, and that's because we're factoring in that it's 25% less than the total value. And that is going to equal $133,000 that we have to bring in. But if you want to bring home $100,000 profit, you can't just leave it at the pre-tax amount to figure out how much it would take. You have to factor in what are called overhead expenses. And overhead expenses can vary widely across industries. So depending on what it is that you want to go and do. Like restaurants are going to be very different overhead requirements than if you're operating a Pom Pom business out of your house, for instance. But what overhead is essentially meant to do is to factor in the cost of running the business. So you're talking about the administration costs, your business licenses, you're talking about insurance, you're talking about software and various platform fees. Like if you're operating on Etsy or Shopify, they charge you a fee for every transaction that goes across their platform on your behalf. So that is what we lump in and we call overhead. And generally a safe bet for a direct-to-customer retail craft business is probably around 10%. But again, that's going to depend on what it is that you're going to do. So with overhead, you have to take $133,000 and you divide it by 0.9 or 90%, which is accounting for the fact that you're figuring in another 10% needs to be coming out of that. So really, we're doing this backward, but hopefully you're following along. You need to make close to $150,000 if you actually want to net out $100,000 to take home at the end of the day. Now, what we're not talking about here is the cost of the goods sold, because really that's already factored in before you get to profit, but we can go into that in another video if people are interested in that. But what this effectively kind of puts into perspective for us is that in order to make $148,000 in total profit so that we can net out $100,000 in profit, we would have to sell 1,000 units at $148 each, or 2,000 units at $74 each, or 5,000 units at $30 each, or lastly, 10,000 units at $15 each. And so when you look at these numbers, it makes you think, okay, realistically, could I sell 10,000 dog leads with a profit of $15 each on each unit. And while we have no idea about the businesses that we just reviewed, how they're doing, what it is easy to say now is that is actually possible. And it's very different than it was in the past, because in the past we had to consider the fact that we were constrained by our locations, and then you had to try and get into a store, and generally we're selling wholesale. But now we also have this other option of selling direct to customer via the internet and growing our reach and people's awareness of our brands through social media like Instagram and TikTok, and using YouTube to then further augment that reach and create additional revenue streams that way. So while I don't think it's easy to say that you're going to quickly grow from, nothing to making $100,000 in net profit a year, I think it is doable. And I think that this is where we kind of have to make a mindset shift of not only is it doable, but it's probably like one of our best paths forward if we want to take more control over our financial positions in life and what our future work life looks like. So that's why, I always get super excited when I see these very specific and niche products. In fact, my entire Instagram feed is basically all of these accounts that are business accounts that I love to see grow and see how they're continuing to do more and more business, because I think that's where we're all going. And I could be totally wrong, but I think that it's worth a shot. If you're really burned out and you don't really feel like you have a lot of faith in the corporate work structure, then you can definitely start to explore these options. Now, this is where we can be real about this, because realistically, selling 10,000 units of anything is intimidating, especially if you're coming from a world like me where I didn't have to sell anything to anyone in order to do my job, and I still got paid. But that's the thing that's remarkably different with the current world that we're living in, with all the social media and e-commerce options that we have in front of us, because we're not just stuck trying to sell 10,000 widgets to people in our location or our general regional area, because now you can sell 10,000 widgets across the world. And that gives you an amazing ability to actually be able to niche down and do a super creative business that's very unique, that you're really interested in, because you can reach the scale that you would need to justify its existence and to really bring home enough money to make it worthwhile. I think that we have to temper expectations. And the reality is that while these businesses, it's entirely possible and it's doable, it's going to be scaled over time, largely dependent on how quickly you can grow your reach and your engagement across social media platforms and then additional revenue streams. But I think coming from the world of a very defined corporate environment with somewhat clear trajectories up the corporate ladder, creating or starting a creative business is actually a much better path for a lot of us, because we can define what that looks like for us. And for a lot of people, they can actually start it while they're doing their corporate business. So that's kind of my perspective on it. And if you're still not really sure what categories or niches you could focus on, then go ahead and check out the link in the description below. I just drafted a list of different product ideas and niches that are really popular. I know I can't say the word niche, sorry. So check it out, it's completely free. I am trying to capture email addresses. I'm not doing anything with them yet, so you would be subscribing to a non-existent email list at this point. But anyway, I hope this was helpful for all of you. And if this is helpful for you, then take a look at the video that we did last week where we talked about how YouTube can help you grow your business once you have decided what you want to do.